Thank you for joining in to Open Source Friday today. I'll make a tweet in a quick second just to make sure that everybody joins. But today I'm going to be joined by Cecelia, who is currently, I'll move this banner, it doesn't work here, but who's currently working at Replay.io as a community lead. And we're going to learn a lot about, I think, replayable.dev and how we can test our open source environments. So why don't you jump into introducing yourself?
Yeah, thanks so much. First, I'd say I'm super excited to be here. So I'm Cecelia. I'm Cecelia Creates on Twitter and GitHub, and I'm a community lead at Replay. I joined Replay in January, and so I spend a lot of my time creating examples, documentation, and then working with our users to help them learn how to debug with Replay, and also just how to debug in general. Yeah, we also do a weekly Twitch stream with some live debugging and digging into examples as well. Before that, I was at a company called Cypress for 2 years, which is a testing framework, and still have a lot of love for testing. That's something I definitely talk a lot about. And in addition to that, I'm part of the GitHub Stars program. I volunteer with Women Who Code Front End. We do virtual events every month. And I'm also the chapter head for the Atlanta chapter of Out in Tech, which supports the LGBTQIA plus community in tech. So
You do a lot. How do you even have time?
I'm a social person, so a lot of it just feels like fun. So I think community lead is definitely a really good fit for me because I just love talking to people and yeah, and stuff like that. So
I love it. I love it. And I feel like, I mean, you don't know this, but I remember when you worked at Cypress. For me, Cypress had come to the coding boot camp that I worked at, and they were like talking to us about integration tests and stuff like that. And then I started like just looking into Cypress. I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then I saw you and I was like, oh my God, like this girl works there and she's like very involved. I don't know. Like I learned a lot from the work you were doing there. So yeah,
oh, that's
awesome work.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to hear that they came to your boot camp. So I'm a boot camp grad too. I did a coding boot camp, and I didn't learn anything about testing. I was like they did not cover that at all. And so that's really exciting that people are starting to learn that like earlier on and not having to just kind of figure it out. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Why don't we? And I don't think you're right. You're right. Like boot camps don't really have much on testing, and I think that was like my only exposure to testing. I was like, oh, okay, there's like integration test versus unit test. But why don't we like get into what is replay, what's replayable, like what are these things?
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of things that they don't really teach you how to do, right? And one of those is debugging. So I feel like I am in good company when I say that nobody really ever sat me down and was like, this is how you debug something. These are how you are supposed to use all the tools. This is your approach for debugging. And so when I found out about Replay, I became very excited because essentially it makes debugging so much more accessible and collaborative. I think a lot of people tend to debug in isolation. They're kind of afraid to like bring people in or admit they made a mistake or whatever it is. But like every single person writes bugs, and so really Replay kind of makes that whole process easier. So what Replay is at its core is it essentially allows you to record your application to produce a shareable recording of a bug. And that bug, like that recording isn't just a video, it captures everything that happens in the browser, including the user events, all the code execution, the network requests, and all the familiar developer tools that you're kind of maybe are used to, like console log, breakpoints, DOM inspector, all of those are built in so that you can actually debug inside the recording. And
Yeah.
because it's shareable, you can add comments, you can collaborate with your team, you can say, hey, I think this line of code might be an issue. And it kind of creates an archive of like what you were able to find out. So um, you can record manually in the Replay browser. You can record automated tests too to see why tests fail. And then you
Ooh.
can also record node executions. That's an experimental runtime recorder. But But yeah, I'm happy to kind of share my screen and show what it looks like if that's helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And just quick second, I guess I wanted to do a shout out to some of our viewers or just say hello to them, people in the comments. Hey, Street Quit, I hope I'm saying your name right, and Ace Mark. They had a quick question. Is I think TTD is test driven. No, I thought it was going to be test driven development, but it's not. Is TTD similar to Windows TTD? And then I'm going to ask a dumb question. What exactly is TTD? Oh, time travel debugging. Okay, cool. Is it
Yes.
similar to Windows?
So I do this all the time and I type it out the same way because I also am used to test-driven development, which is on the
Yeah.
testing side. So time travel debugging refers to being able to go back and forward in time while you're debugging. So usually when you're like debugging, you're kind of you're like loading your application live, whether it's locally or in production, and you're trying to like catch it. You're trying to make either with breakpoints or you're throwing console logs in, and you have to try and kind of catch the execution. Time
Yeah.
travel debugging lets you kind of see what happened at different points in time. And
Gotcha.
so there are some time travel debuggers, so that kind of have like a similar concept where you can like jump back, jump forward. But usually like you might see this like in Redux dev tools,
Yeah.
where you see all the dispatches and you can like skip back and you can still skip forward. So Replay is a time travel debugger in that because we recorded everything, you can jump back, you can jump forward, you can see what things were happening at certain points in time. So, but yeah,
Gotcha.
so it's kind of whenever I tell people that I work with a time travel debugger, they get very excited and interested and say, what does that mean? So
Yeah, it sounds very cool, and I've never heard. I think I've used time travel debuggers. Like there's this thing called Mabel and Full Story and stuff like that. There are at least they're like similar. But I never heard that acronym TTD. Let's go ahead and share the demo, and then for people who are viewing, feel free to like ask questions and also tell us where you're viewing from, like where you're located. I want to interact with y'all.
yeah, awesome. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. The first thing I want to just make sure I have pulled up here. So I'm going to talk about a bug today that comes from Excalidraw. So this was something that I wrote a blog post about in terms of how you can contribute to open source projects without actually like doing code contributions. So this is something that I feel like you can contribute to open source in a lot of different ways, even if you're not necessarily comfortable pushing code fixes yet. And one of the ways that you can do that, there's documentation, there's helping out in community forums, there is, one of the ways is creating these like good reproducible bug reports. So this is the Replay browser, and it works just like a regular browser. It's actually a fork of Firefox. Some of the team started at Mozilla working on Firefox dev tools. And so essentially the only difference is it has this record button here, and you can start recording. You would essentially interact with your application the same way that you would to reproduce your bug, and then you hit stop, and it creates this kind of shareable URL that I can then share and make public, whatever it may be. So that's the process for how you record. Just wanted to show that really quick.
Okay.
Once you have the recording, once I have that URL, I can actually open it in any browser. So I'm switched here to Chrome because that's just the one that I use all the time. And I have this recording of a bug that we captured in Excalidraw. So this was an open GitHub issue. It was probably about 2 months old, and it didn't really like have a reproducible example. And so I was like, maybe I can try and reproduce it with Replay and see what we find. So this is the actual Replay. Like I said, it's a shareable URL. You can click the share button, copy the link. It's also up here in the window. And it's essentially a recording of me reproducing that bug, right? And this is the viewer mode. So you have the nice big screen, and I can play it and I can show what's happening. And essentially the bug is once you get down to 0, it locks up and you can't resize from there. So
Ooh.
I can go backwards, I can go forwards. This probably at this point looks kind of similar to like if you were recording in Loom or like a screen recorder. You can add comments to different points in time. So I say, I'm starting to resize here. And then after here, resizing doesn't work. So that is the viewer mode, where you can kind of come in, you can see what's happening, you can add comments. I decided to like that I actually wanted to try and debug this a little bit, even though I wasn't familiar with the Excalidraw code base at all. So I hopped over to DevTools, and DevTools is essentially the developer mode that comes built in with all the debugging tools that you would use in a browser. So I tried to make this as big as possible, so I'm going to kind of be dragging things around here. But if I go back to the beginning where I start resizing, I have my element picker, which you typically see in a browser. And this isn't a video, this is actually like a DOM. So I can come in here and I can pick an element, inspect it, see its HTML, see the
Wow.
CSS classes, the same way that you would in a browser. And again,
Yeah.
that's for a given point in time. So I could like see how CSS classes may change or like how elements are being rendered. It comes with the React dev tools as well. So you can come in here, you can go to your components. You can see like the value of your props, again, at different points in time. What your state is if you're using the state within your components. And it also has the network requests. So you can see all the network requests going in and out of the browser. And then you can also see like the request headers, the responses, and the timings of how long it took to send and receive the request. So
Wow.
that's, yeah, that's
This
kind
is
of like,
so powerful and detailed.
so the thing that like gets really cool for me, or that I got really excited about, is that we also capture all the code execution. So that here in the sources, which you normally would see in the browser as well, you see what sources are showing. We capture how many times like each line of code was hit, and what actually took place at different points in time. So I have here on this line, I found this kind of resize elements component. So I traced that down from, I like opened up the React component. I found this like prop that was element new width. And then I searched for that value in the code base. And I was able to find like within the replay, I was able to find this component. And with replay, you can actually add console logs or print statements retroactively. So without having to like go in and change my source code, like reload my server, see what output, okay, that wasn't the right spot, like change the variable. I can pretty much go to any line of code that ran, and I can see, at what point it executed and then what certain values were at different points. So here on this kind of line, I'm going to make this even bigger if I can. And I'm going to pop up my console. So I have a console too, so I can evaluate variables. But I can see here that I'm saying like element new width is calculable. And I can log to the console that element new width value, and it has autocomplete because it knows what's in scope. And I can save it, and it's going to load to the console. Oh, sorry, I'm going to go ahead and change this to element new width. Actually, there it is. I clicked the wrong one. So it's going to load to the console for each and every single time that line hits. And I can see like back here, my square is big. As I'm sizing down, the number is going down, right? Like 77, 17. And then when I got to this point, I noticed that it started logging nan,
Not
not
a
a number.
number. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we can see in the DOM too what's happening. It's just a straight line at that point. So now that I'm locked in at this point in time, I can actually hover over my source, and I can see like what the values of the different variables were at that point in time. So I can see element new width. If I hover over it, it says not a number. Hopefully you can see that. It's probably kind of small. I can see that that's being calculated by multiplying element width by scale x. And if I hovered over scale x, and I saw that it's negative infinity. So that is like probably a culprit. And I traced it all the way, and I kind of traced it up. So I'm like, okay, where is scale x? A couple lines up, scale x is being calculated. We're essentially getting the difference between how we're handling the resize, but we're dividing by this value called bounds current width, which at this point in time has a value of 0. So when you divide by 0 in math, it doesn't like it, creates some funky situations. And so after that point, scale x, which I can actually show here too, I can go ahead and log scale x. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this one. So it has like, yeah, so scale X and save that. And I can see that as we get kind of closer down to 0, it becomes negative
Negative
infinity.
infinity.
And then after that, everything is
Interesting.
not a number. And the nice thing about replay is you can add comments to specific lines. So
Yeah.
I added a comment here, essentially like this is saying its scale X is negative infinity. And then on this line, bounds current with the 0, and added the replay with those comments to the GitHub issue, like the initial GitHub issue. I wrote a blog post about it here, and they were able to like push a fix the next day. So fixed via that.
Wow.
So that's essentially an example of like replay in action. Like I didn't pull down the code base, I wasn't familiar with it, but because it had all these tools and I could dig in and inspect and go to different points in time, I learned essentially the execution of what was happening, and was able to debug it. So
Yeah, and then you were able to open up a bug report in another open source project and give them more details. You weren't just like, "Oh, this isn't working." You're like, "This isn't working because of this."
exactly. And that's one of the things that I try to emphasize is that it's really actually like people think, oh, if I'm not contributing code, then it's not helpful or it doesn't count. But really, like this is super helpful for maintainers, because as a
Yeah.
maintainer, if we don't know what happened, if we can't see what was happening on your machine, it becomes really hard to debug that issue. It's like if you don't have a reproduction, you really can't start to debug.
Yeah.
So creating these reproductions of bugs or contributing really good bug reports, like using replay where you have everything captured, can be really helpful for maintainers and help them, actually improve the code base. And at the same time, you're also learning. Like now I know more um, about Excalidraw, and I actually like kind of looked up this transform resize thing is called like a flip model, where it's like first last invert pattern, where essentially like when you're resizing it, that's how they handle the animation. Anyway, so it helped me learn more about code as well, which is really neat. So
Yeah. I loved this is such a game changer. I'm thinking of all the times that I had to like debug Redux state and like different like state changes, and I'm like, "Oh, this is so hard." I wish I had this tool that was like showing me like it in action, replaying it, the console, the code. I can add comments so I don't forget. Like I felt like I was like writing notes in my little notebook. Like this happened at this moment. I don't know. It's such a game
yeah.
changer.
Yeah, so two things you mentioned there. One is Redux. So Ace Mark, who's in the chat there, is actually Mark Erikson, he's on the replay team. He's
Oh,
also a core
hey, Eric.
maintainer of Redux, and really like has some really great awesome content and like blog posts and courses around Redux and debugging, but he's helped building out our Redux dev tools. So we do have Redux dev tools built in right now. You
Yeah.
have to have an application that's using Redux or NGRX or MobX for it to show up, so that's why it's not showing in this replay.
Yeah.
So we do have Redux dev tools. And then you're absolutely right about the comment thing. So I will just leave little breadcrumbs to myself as I'm debugging. I'm just like, I don't know if this is important, but it's weird, or like, what does this line do? Or, and that's really helpful to me. Like if I get distracted and have to come back, I think we all had that moment where we're like, what was I looking at? Like, what does this mean?
Yep. Exactly. I this is way also it's more powerful than I was imagining. I was like imagining a mix between like something like Mabel or Cypress and Full Story. Like I don't know. I don't know if you're even familiar with either of those, but maybe
Yeah.
because you're in that space. But it's not like this
Yes.
at all. It's better.
So that's the thing is, so things like Full Story or Log Rocket, where it's kind of recording a remote user session, you're able to capture some information, usually like the video, right? And some of
Yeah.
this, what's happening on the screen, and maybe some quick events or things like that. But being able to actually tap into the code execution and even be able to see things like what was this local storage like, and just completely replicate that experience and that was happening on their machine, that completely removes the need to be able to reproduce the issue to debug it as a developer. And so, yeah, we're seeing people use it for, when they're debugging in development, but also for QA, like manual QA, to create defect reports, and then also, like bug reports and, in that context as well. So, You mentioned Cypress too, and so we actually are building out. We have two kind of experimental, actually three test recorders. So you can record your playwright, puppeteer, and Cypress test with replay, so that if the test fails, you already have this recording that you can go in and debug in order to show, like, why did it fail? Was it the source code? If it was a source code bug, like what was happening in the source code? And just kind of like a much more intensive debugging experience than what you might get from a log or a screenshot. So
That's awesome. Software engineering is getting so accessible. I don't know what word to use,
yeah,
but so
yeah.
awesome. Yeah. I'm gonna check the chat, and then we can move into the pairing session, which I'm excited and nervous for. Hopefully I don't like embarrass myself. um,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's see. People are saying where they're from. India. Wow, thanks for joining in. I imagine it's like nighttime by you. Chicago, San Diego, Daytona, Russia. Thanks for joining in, y'all. Colorado, Memphis. Someone said, "Is this commenting added to HAR? I don't know what that is." On Mark Erikson responded, but just wanted to highlight that to other people. Do you know what HAR is? I'm not familiar with that, or HAR.
I'm not sure. I don't know if maybe that's an acronym for something. I'm not the best with acronyms. I
Okay,
guess
me
I will
neither.
say that the comments are added like across all instances. So if I add a comment and if somebody else opens it, like they'll also see this comment. So that's where that collaboration aspect goes in.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so and they live within the replay, so it doesn't really change like your application code or anything like that. It's just the comments are in the replay. So
Gotcha. And then I guess I'll just read out Mark's response to some of these other stuff. How much is a I'll put it on here. How much is the file size when you record and export a session? He said depends on the app complexity and how long you record, but say 50 to 75. Um, Again, I'm bad with these. Is it millibytes? Megabytes, yeah. Might be typical for a couple minutes. Here's a public replay. Okay, and then another person asked this. Okay, cool. I feel like Mark's covering our questions.
Mark
Thank
is the
you.
best at
Yeah.
answering questions. Like, yeah, is the best. So.
Cool. So I don't. Maybe we don't need to go through these. This is perfect. Very helpful. um. Cool. Let's go ahead and let me. I guess you sent me a link. Let
Yeah,
me
so
pull.
I can kind of set this up too first. So we didn't
Okay.
get a chance yet to talk about replayable.
Oh,
So
thank you.
yeah, so that'll kind of set up this next one here. So there is I want to point out we have replay.io/examples. So replay.io/examples, which takes you right to this page in our docs that has a lot of examples on how to debug with replay, just in general, some good debugging resources. Actually, Mark's blog posts are in here too. And one of the things that we've kind of worked on is this site called replayable.dev. And so Replayable, it's this open source project. It's pretty straightforward at this point. It's kind of something we wanted to get started, but it's a site, and I have it here. Yes, I do. Okay. That essentially shows GitHub issues that have a replay attached to them.
What?
So
Okay.
yeah, so I can kind of, basically all of these here. So we use, as you can probably imagine, we use replay a lot at Replay.
Yeah.
And so if any GitHub issue has a replay recording, then it will show up in this site. And so this is a good way to, number one, find open issues that already have a replay. So if you want to go in and start debugging, you kind of have everything that you already need to check it out. The other thing is you can see closed issues. So you can see how replays were captured and then how ultimately the issue got fixed. That's my favorite thing to look at. Whenever the replay team pushes new features, I take a look at the replay of the original bug and I take a look at what they fixed, the code that was changed. And seeing that relationship is really helpful for me just to learn the code base and see how people resolve certain types of bugs.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so that's what replayable is at its core. We want people to really we have this, for open source teams and for individuals, we have like completely free plans. And so you can add replay recordings to GitHub issues. We have a replay.io/OSS page where we have like a GitHub issue template to encourage people to submit replays when they report bugs, a record bugs guide for like end users on how to just make a quick bug reporting. And so yes, that's kind of what this idea is, that we really want to support open source projects and being able to maintain their projects easier by improving that debugging experience. And so with Replayable, you can kind of find those issues and you can see what's out there and just dig in and be like, okay, there's already a reproduction. I can start digging and debugging. I don't have to try and reproduce the error. So the other fun thing about Replayable, and this is something that we just kind of like threw in, is it has this little check mark button on the bottom that enables Buggy Mode. So when I click this, it switches to Buggy Mode. It's like changed like a little ladybug on the bottom. And,
oh, that's cute.
And now this site has bugs in it. So you can actually like record the site and go bug hunting and try to figure out like what broke and why. So
interesting.
Yeah, and so it kind of just like toggles on and off, like Buggy Mode and then good mode. And so there's a replay on their examples page of the site that you can kind of like dig in and start debugging, or you can record it yourself. But that's the replay that we're going to take a look at, is this replay with some built-in bugs, which is harder than it sounds to make like a purposefully buggy app.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how did they do that?
It's tricky because you have to break it enough, but not so much that it doesn't even build, right? Because it has to, and then you don't want to make them too obvious. So I have some. I'll kind of just start by showing off some of the bugs, and I'll have you kind of like guide me through, and we can talk through them together. Because so this is kind of starts off in normal mode. I'll go ahead and just play the video. This is normal mode. And then I enable Buggy Mode, and a couple of things happen. So in Buggy Mode, the first row only has one replay link, but in normal mode, it had two. So once something happened there, in Buggy Mode, the font color labels, the labels for the font color is now just like all white. But in normal mode, they're adjusted based on the background color so that you have the right contrast. So that's another bug. And then in Buggy Mode, when you hover over these links, they kind of bold up and they don't revert. So let me back up a little bit so you can see that better.
I missed that one.
Yeah, so as I hover over those links, they kind of bold and then they stay that way. They don't revert when you go off.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, so it's kind of, and then last but not least, here I'm sorting by repo. So I'm looking at the DevTools repo, and it has created on, and it has the dates here. In Buggy Mode, the dates are an integer, not a date.
Interesting.
So those are the bugs we have to pick from. I'm going to let you pick which one you want to do. So the formatting the date, the font color, the missing replay link, or the hover thing, the hover bold issue.
Maybe the font color?
Okay. Okay, cool.
Let's try that one.
All right. So I'm going to go over to DevTools mode here. And so I don't know when you think about debugging, so I talk about this, like what's kind of your first step when you are like encountering a bug?
Usually I go to the console, or like, I guess if we're talking about styled elements, I'm looking for those components, seeing what's different from how it's supposed to work versus how it does work. So usually my first step is like console, looking at the elements, and then like printing out values.
Nice. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I agree. So I always look at the console first, and we will log out any errors or logs that took place during the application, like runtime. Unfortunately, we don't have any here. So I say, like, I love it when an error occurs because it like will take me right to this call stack of where I need to go. But the worst thing that happens when you like click a button, it doesn't work, and there's no indication as to why. The second thing that you said, makes a lot of sense to me too, which is starting to kind of inspect those elements, right? So
Yeah.
we have two things happening here. So in normal mode, and this is the nice thing about that time travel, in normal mode, so we can jump back to normal mode, like at that moment in time. And let's go ahead and use the React picker. And let's see like what's happening here. So I selected this kind of like issue row component, and then I'm gonna make this bigger now. Inside it has some label, like a label here, and then the issue links. And so I can see that my label has a color and a name.
Yeah.
And I can see that it has this prop of Buggy, which is set to false. So that's kind of like how that magic works, is that there's a and
I
so
see.
yeah. So I do see that there's a color set, which looks like that's probably the background color. So, and I can see that we do have a value there. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to use the element picker to see like what's happening with the CSS on that same
Yeah.
element. So we looked at the React version, the React component, and now we're going to look at the actual element itself. So I can see that it has like an issue label, it has a background color, and then it has a color of white. And then if I click on this one, I can see that it has a color of black. So that's normal mode. Everything's kind of working the way it should. And again, going back to our React component, the nice thing is that we can see like where it was rendered by, and then look up that component. So I'm going to do that next. I can see that it was rendered by issue row. So I'm going to go to my sources, and I'm going to pull up issue row. So this is my React code for that issue row. And it looks, what we're looking for here is label. And so here, it's not a very big file. You can search as well. You just kind of bring up the search functionality, like this little search icon. You can search
Gotcha.
within a file, you can search function names, but it's right here. So we have this kind of function label, and we can see our props. We can see toggle label, we can see the label value, and we can see Buggy. And we can see all three of those are being passed into our function here.
Yep.
And we can see that the font color is depending on Buggy. We're passing through the label, or we're passing through the label node color.
Color. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
if it's in buggy mode, we'll just pass in the label. But if it's in normal mode, we'll pass in the label's node color. Cool.
exactly. And so this is a function here, right? This like get, and we can see this like essentially, here we're passing in label. I can save that to the console, and I can see that the times that those hits, that's like, it's only hitting, let me go forward here where we're like kind of in that mode. And then here has 72 hits, and I can pass through that label.node.color, and it has the autocomplete, and I can go to my console, and I can see that it's like, that we always have a color, even when we're in buggy mode, we're just not passing it through the right way. But there's a little more to this one. I know we're like probably getting close on time,
No,
but
it's okay. We can keep going.
this get label font color is a function. And
Yeah.
I can see that I'm importing it from this kind of scripts utilities. So I'm just gonna take a look at that really quick, because I'm just curious what's going on there.
Yeah.
And I can see that the label color that we're passing through, we're actually iterating through it to calculate whether it should be black or white.
Wow. Okay.
So we're declaring RGB as 0. And then we're saying if the length is 3 or the length is 6, because hexadecimal codes can be either, then we're essentially like going through the value with the index and setting it based on that. And then we're just doing some math here that I did not write myself. And then depending on that math, we're returning if it's to be black or white.
Black or
So if
white.
I
Wow.
log HSP here to the console, so if it's greater than 127, it should be black. Otherwise, it should be white. Once we get to buggy mode here, everything is just always 0.
Zero.
Yeah, so it's always going to never going to be greater than 127. The thing is that normally if you just pass the wrong type through, it would break, right? The build would break.
Yeah.
But because we're iterating through, like this is still an object, so it's still iterable.
Yeah.
But instead of iterating on the string, we're iterating on the object.
The
So
object
the
itself.
functions, yeah, so the function still runs. It doesn't know that it's broken. And that's why like the application doesn't break. It just was always going to be a white font instead of black font. So
I love this. Sorry, I don't feel like I did much to contribute, but this
yeah,
is so cool. And so, can I get clarity? Did y'all create Buggy Mode just so people can learn how to use Replayable? Like, I don't. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So that's
Okay.
really what it is like we're finding that the more you practice bugs, the more you just kind of like get a sense of how to do it, then the
Yeah.
better you get at it, right? And so kind of when you first started, that's why I asked you like how do you start? Because that was really helpful in understanding what your process is. And not everybody knows where to start.
Mm,
Some people
yeah.
like, may not go to the element picker. They may not use Reactive tools. And so kind of being able to see how other people debug and having a playground to kind of just poke around and like start to learn out those tools and those processes. That's why we added the buggy mode, is to give
Yeah.
people a chance to kind of like fix bugs or practice fixing bugs in a low stress way. So it's like,
Yeah.
not your like it's not because you're like trying to fix something because something's broken and you have to like get it figured out. And yeah, so we kind of the more that you can practice debugging, the better you get at it. And then you can also collaborate, right? So this is something where
Yeah.
you can go in, you can add comments, you can say like, "Hey, I think I found this, but I'm not sure. What do you think?" To be able to do that in like a pairing kind of way. So
This is so awesome. I'm definitely going to send this over to people that I like show and teach to code because like that's a skill that we don't like work on enough, like debugging, and there's not enough tools out there. Like I don't know how to show people how to debug unless their app is broken. I'm like, "Okay, let's debug this." But like the fact that there's like a little sandbox or playground to mess around in. And then also I'm imagining that the replay team is gaining insights from seeing how other people debug and not just relying on how like they themselves debug.
absolutely. Yeah. So we have a public Discord, replay.io/Discord, and the entire team, like that's where we work. So we work right alongside users, and we always say, like, bring us your bugs. Like, if you have an issue and you're stuck on it, like, we would love to pair with you and just like see how you're debugging. Because you're right, everybody debugs differently. Everyone's had different exposures to methods or tools, and we can really learn a lot from each other. Of all different like experience levels or programming languages. All of that's super helpful. So we really want that to be collaborative space. And we have a lot of people in our Discord who will kind of share bugs with us and tell us like kind of how it's going. So
This is I'm impressed. I feel like this is one of my favorite open source Fridays. Thank
yay.
you.
That's high
Awesome.
praise. I appreciate it. I love this stream. So
Oh yay, awesome. And I feel like and we kind of wrap this up in like good time. I guess I'll look at the comments very quickly and then I'll ask you the questions I always ask, like what's your favorite food, what's your favorite Beyonce song, and then we can wrap up from there. Does that sound cool to you?
yeah, yeah, awesome. That sounds great.
Okay, cool. And oh yeah, if there's anything you wanted to promote or just like any last words, I forgot about that. Let me
Oh,
see.
sure.
I Mark really covered some of these questions first, so that really helps. I guess I'll highlight some of them if anyone's not getting to see the comments section, or if they rewatch this later on YouTube. Someone said, "Is Replay browser a Chromium based browser?" And Mark said, "We have both. The main Replay browser is based on Firefox, but we do have Chrome for Linux available as well. Chrome for Mac is hopefully coming later this year." But once you make the recording, you can use the debugging website with any browser. That's awesome.
Yeah, well said, Mark.
Um, yeah, yeah. I work in ad tech. Will display ads get captured in the replay browser? You can use replay to capture any website, period. And because replay actually records the browser talking to the operating system, it can record everything that the browser knows about. So yes, if it shows up in the web page, it gets captured in the recording. Bakari, hey, he said, "What's up, buggy people?"
Hey,
Hey, what's
Bakari.
up? Thanks for watching. Yeah, Bakari's such a cool person.
Yeah, I met Bakari at Render.
Me too.
Oh,
Sorry.
nice.
Sorry, I interrupted you. You were gonna say something about him.
No. Yeah, I was just saying that Bakari's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. um, Sri Quit said in the recording context, do browser extensions affect the recording? Such a browser which records the ad block, no script, and you troubleshoot it in a different browser without the extensions. How does it affect the debugging session? And Mark said that's a good question. Replay browser is normal on Chrome. For instance, so yes, you could install extensions in that browser, but in most cases, you wouldn't have any. That said, if you did have an extension installed in Replay browser and it would do something like inserting a value into the page, that would still get recorded. Okay, cool. I'm not going to go through every
Yeah.
single one of them. I just know that the comments won't be seen on YouTube, so I wanted to highlight a few. But people love this. So let's get into the non-technical questions. What's your
Yeah.
favorite food? Sorry.
That's a hard one. Let's see. There's like my favorite foods, and there's the foods that I end up eating most often, which are not the same, unfortunately. I honestly like I love Mexican food. So,
Ooh,
like my mom's like enchiladas, like that's my. I don't get to eat them very often, but whenever I see her, I always ask for them. So yeah, I would say that's probably my favorite. But the food that I tend to eat most often, is I've been really into like we have like this really cool market here in Atlanta called Krog Street Market, and they have a lot of like good food, but one of the places they have is a bao place, and I love those little
ooh,
buns.
I
So
love bao. What a good choice! Like you just made some awesome choices, and that's a good point. That I do end up eating foods that are not necessarily my favorite food, but I always like go for them. Also, what's your favorite Beyonce song? Also, she dropped the album like last night, so I don't know if you're a fan, but
oh, okay.
or not last night. Sorry, I got confused with Drake. Drake dropped it last night, but hers is coming soon. Like she
Okay.
announced that she's dropping one. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. If I like, it's hard to pick a favorite, to be honest. I mostly just know like a lot of the songs that are on the radio, and then that kind of thing. I kind of like also just like I grew up in the Destiny's Child era. That was
That's
like
a
back
good
in those
era.
days. So I think like I have a lot of emotional connection to some of those songs as well. Like Bills and stuff like
Yes.
that.
Why was that
So
the one in my mind? I was like, "Can you pay my bill?" When you
yeah.
said Destiny's Child.
So yeah, so like I know that Beyonce has probably like much better repertoire now, but for some reason I just like always go back to like that stuff from back in the day. So
Awesome choice. I think some of her throwbacks are awesome. Someone said sorry, I'm team Rihanna, not Beyonce. That's all right. I love Rihanna too. I
all
have
teams.
no preferences.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
all teams. All right. And I guess we'll end with if you have like any like closing words or things that you want to promote. I should have asked earlier if you wanted people to follow you on Twitter or something like that so I could put it up on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically just like I guess if I could highlight again that we have the Discord replay.io/Discord. That is like the best place to talk with the team, to learn more, to ask questions, to share bugs with us. Replay.io/examples, which has the replays that we talked about today, as well as a lot of others to just kind of get some good debugging practice. And then we also do a weekly Twitch stream on Fridays. It's actually right after this one.
Oh,
And so we're at twitch.tv/replayio.
okay.
So yeah, so replay.io all together. Yes, exactly. Yep.
Awesome.
So we do the our stream right after yours. So yeah. So I guess I'll just kind of shout out those things, and then also just like don't be afraid of bugs. I know it's hard. Nobody likes it. No, like everybody from up all different levels is not great at it. And so that's really you mentioned earlier that software development is becoming more accessible, and I think that really good developer tools is what gets us there. And
Yeah.
the better we can make that experience of software development, debugging, testing, whatever it may be, a better experience, then more people can do it, and they can do it well, and they can enjoy it and build really cool things. So yeah, I would say embrace the bugs.
Yes, I love ending on that note. Embrace those bugs, y'all. Join the replay Discord, join the replay Twitch stream that's happening right after this, and then take a look at those examples. Thank you all for joining in. I had a really fun time in this session, and I'm excited. I might peek into the replay IO Twitch stream in a second. All
Oh,
right.
nice.
Um Someone asked me what is the best tools you have seen in Git for CI/CD. I'm gonna say GitHub Actions, and then I'm gonna press end broadcast right here. All right, bye, y'all.
Fun day replay. I love that. Okay.
That's hilarious.